Hey there. So let's talk about your web browser. Most of us, right? We just use Google Chrome. It's the default, we don't even think about it. But what if I told you there's a whole universe of other browsers out there, ones that are actually built to protect your privacy? Today, we're going to dive in and explore some of these powerful alternatives. And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's a blunt question, but one we really should be asking ourselves. When you're online, you're shopping, you're reading, you're just clicking around, is what you're doing actually private? For millions and millions of us, the answer is, well, it's a little uncomfortable. And look, that's not just a hunch, it's a well-documented reality. This quote from our source material really spells it out. The single most popular browser on the planet has a business model that's fundamentally built around your data. So what kind of data are we even talking about? Well, it's pretty much everything. It's your entire browsing history, every single site you visit. It's all your search queries, every curiosity, every question you've ever typed into that box. And yeah, it can even be your physical location. All of this stuff paints an incredibly detailed picture of your life. And for a lot of people, it's way too much. But the good news? You absolutely have other options. Okay, so where do you even start? Probably the easiest way to make a change, especially if you're a longtime Chrome user, is to pick something that feels familiar. And that brings us to our first category, browsers that are built on the exact same foundation as Chrome, but with privacy built right in from the start. So you're going to see this term Chromium-based. What does that even mean? Well, Google actually makes the core engine of Chrome, that's called Chromium, available as open source code. This means other developers can take that code, and this is the important part, they can strip out all the Google tracking stuff and then add their own privacy features on top. So you end up getting a browser that looks and feels a lot like Chrome, but without all the surveillance. First up, we've got Brave. You've probably heard of this one. Its popularity has just exploded. The second you install it, it's already blocking trackers and ads by default. But its real superpower is something called browser fingerprinting protection. See, companies can identify you online just based on your device's unique settings. It's even sneakier than cookies. Brave actively fights to scramble that fingerprint, making you much harder to track. Next on the list is Vivaldi. Now, if you're a power user, someone who loves to customize and tweak every little setting, you are going to love Vivaldi. It's made by former developers from Opera, so these folks know browsers. The whole thing is built for productivity and deep customization, but with privacy right at its core. And then, for the real purists out there, there's ungoogled Chromium. I mean, the name pretty much says it all, right? The developers have gone through with a fine-tooth comb and have ripped out every single piece of Google integration. What you're left with is the pure, clean Chromium engine without any of the corporate tracking attached. Okay, so those are great options if you want to stick with that familiar Chrome feel. But what if you want to break away from the Google ecosystem entirely? Well, then you take the independent path. And that path leads straight to Firefox and its many variations, which are known as forks. Firefox is the classic, the original independent browser. It's built by a nonprofit, the Mozilla Foundation, not a giant ad company. It's been a favorite in privacy-focused communities for years and years for a reason. It's open source, it's super flexible, and they have a mobile version called Firefox Focused, which is just fantastic for private browsing on your phone. Now, just like we saw with Chromium, other developers can take the open source code for Firefox and create their own modified versions. We call these forks. You can think of them as specialized spin-offs of Firefox, usually hardened and tweaked for even more privacy and security right out of the box. A perfect example of a fork is LibreWolf. This browser takes Firefox and pre-configures it with the absolute strongest privacy and security settings from the get-go. It's really designed for desktop users who just want maximum protection without having to dig through a bunch of settings menus themselves. And the community around Firefox is just so active, which gives us yet another great choice, WaterFox. This is another really well-established and respected fork. It also delivers a private, secure browsing experience, giving you one more excellent way to step outside of Google's world. So we've covered some fantastic everyday options, but what if your need for privacy is, well, more serious? What if you need the absolute highest level of protection you can possibly get? Okay, now we're getting into our final category, the specialists. And here it is, the Tor browser. This is pretty much the gold standard for online anonymity. It's a heavily modified version of Firefox that automatically connects you to the Tor network. It works by routing your internet traffic through a whole series of global relays, which makes it incredibly difficult for anyone to trace your activity back to you. Now, if Tor seems like maybe a bit overkill for your daily browsing, you should check out the Mullvad browser. This is a really interesting project. It's a collaboration between the team that makes Tor and the privacy-focused Mullvad VPN. The goal here is to take all of Tor's amazing privacy tech and package it into a browser that's a little more user-friendly for everyday desktop use. Okay, so I know what you might be thinking. Hey, you didn't say anything about Safari or Microsoft Edge or Opera. And you know what? That's a totally fair question. Our source material actually talks about them, so let's take a quick look. So here are the other big names, and while they're all alternatives to Chrome, the source points out that each one comes with its own set of privacy trade-offs. For instance, Apple's Safari has some great anti-tracking tech, but it's closed source, which means we can't independently verify what's happening under the hood. So in some ways, they might be a step up from Chrome, but they don't quite hit the same high standards as the dedicated privacy browsers we've just talked about. Wow, okay, we have covered a ton of ground here, from easy switches to expert-level tools. But at the end of the day, the most important thing to remember is this: the choice is actually yours. You have the power to pick a tool that really aligns with what you believe in. So how do you actually make that choice? It really boils down to 3 pretty simple steps. First, just think about your own needs. Are you just a casual user who wants to block some ads, or do you need serious, rock-solid anonymity? Second, explore some of the options we laid out today. Maybe download 1 or 2 and try them out. And finally, the most important step: own your data. Make the switch to a browser that actually respects you and your privacy. And that really leaves us with one last question to chew on. When it comes to your life online, is it all about pure speed and convenience? Or is there also room for things like privacy and security? As we've seen today, the choice really is up to you. So, in your digital life, what do you value most? Thanks so much for tuning in.